Good morning, everyone, or at least it's morning when I'm recording this. Back with another math video. We're working on lesson 8.3 today, skipping over 8.2. Go ahead and grab your math notebooks. We're going to start in there first with some notes. So today, the title of 8.2 is Connecting Fractions to Division, which we already have kind of done in the past. So go ahead and put your title and your table of contents, and then on the page that you're actually on, fractions as division. I guess fractions are division. And we have talked about this as long as we've been talking about fractions, actually. So part of this will be really familiar, and this actually might seem like a super simple lesson to you. It'll just be figuring out where to put your numbers. And please excuse our noisy heater. It's clicking again this morning. I do apologize that it's kind of loud. Okay, fractions are division, and we already know that fractions show us how many parts of a whole. And fractions, of course, are less than 1. Okay, so if I was to draw something like this out, if I had like 3/5, and we actually kind of did this in the show what you know too, the numerator shows how many parts we're looking at, and the denominator shows how many are in the whole, how many total parts we have. So it looks something like this. Here's my shape. I've got 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I shaded 3 of them in, now I've got what that fraction looks like. 3 parts out of the 5 whole that are there. Okay, and we know this too, that the fraction bar tells us to divide. And we say it even looks like a division sign, right? Here's the bar in the middle, and then our numbers on top and bottom look like the division sign. So the fraction bar tells us to divide. So fractions can be written as division sentences. I'll give you a second to write that down. Fraction bar tells us to divide, so fractions can be written as division sentences. This is something that we've not practiced before, but I think you'll catch on really quick. So if I had a fraction, 3/4, 3/4, this fraction bar tells me to divide, right? Who are we dividing here? We have 3 divided by 4. 3 divided by 4. Excuse me. And we also can see it as this way too. When I have an improper fraction, 12/2 or 12 halves, that would be the same as saying 12 divided by 2. Just like that. Okay. Whenever we see these fractions as sentences, the thing we need to ask ourselves is who is getting divided? Which number is being divided? And that's especially true with word problems and these fractions. We're really going to have to pay attention to who is being divided. I'll give you a second to write that down too. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute here. I want you to write this down first. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, here's that example I was talking about. We're going to write out a word problem so that we could do cups and stuff on it. So the problem is 4 friends share 6 sheets of poster board equally. How many sheets of poster board does each friend get? Here's the question. Pause the video if you need to write it down a second here. Okay, we're going to use cups on this because we're familiar with that. So first thing, C is for circle. Circle important numbers and words. I see a number here, 6 sheets of poster board. I see the word equally. That's important. And there's a couple other words here that I think are also important to know. This word, 4, is actually a number. It's just written as a word. So be really careful with word problems. Sometimes they'll write numbers as words. They'll spell them out. So they'll try and trick you that way. So pay attention for that. 4 friends share 6 sheets of poster board equally. U is for underline the question. How many sheets of poster board does each friend get? Oh, here's another C, another circle. Each. How many does each mean? Each means 1. So of the 4 friends, how much of the poster board does 1 friend get? So each of them, all 4 of them, would get the same amount. That's what this word equally is about. But we have to know how much just one of them gets. Okay? P is for plan. Now I have to figure out what they're asking me to do. There is a keyword in here that will tell you which operation we're looking for. I want you to kind of pause the video if you need to. See if you can find that keyword. It's already circled for us. But which word is telling us an operation to do? I noticed this one, equally. If you look back into what we did yesterday about what division is breaking something into equal groups. So if we're looking at equal groups, that means we're doing division. Okay, so that's our operation word. If ever you see equal or equally, that's going to tell you to divide. Okay, so I have my operation. I'm going to put that down. But what numbers do I put in which places? I know I need something here and something here, but I've got 2 numbers, and I need to know who is getting divided. Am I dividing the 4 friends, or am I dividing the 6 sheets of poster board? Well, actually, the problem tells us 4 friends share 6 sheets of poster board equally. So this is also a keyword, sharing. What are they sharing? What are they dividing? The 6 sheets of poster board, right? So that means this number must come first. 6 divided by what? The only other number we have is 4. So 6 divided by 4. Okay, so then I can come over here and I can do 6 in the box divided by 4, and I'm done, right? Well, yes and no. For this particular lesson, they're wanting you to be able to take a math sentence like this and write the answer as a fraction. And that's kind of what we were doing up here. Okay, so if I look at that example up here, I'm going to put my fraction bar in. If I look at this example up here, that will kind of tell me where these numbers should go. So up here, 3/4 can be also written as 3 divided by 4. Down here our numbers are a little different. We have 6 divided by 4, but I want you to pause the video real quick and write down who would your numerator be and who would your denominator be, and then click play when you're ready to continue. This is what I've come up with. This first number is always the numerator. The second number is always the denominator. And if we look at the words in our word problem here, that makes sense. 6 friends share, or 6, oh my goodness, let me start over. 4 friends share 6 pieces of poster board equally. So that means we have to divide this number up. So we were right when we were kind of jumping ahead a little. We do have to do this because what is that called again? This number right here? An improper fraction, when we've got a big number on top of a little number. We fix it by dividing, and then we'll end up with a mixed number over here. I want you to pause the video really quick and tell the adult who's with you what a mixed number is. If you can't remember, look back in your math notebook. We have it written down. Okay, so a mixed number is a whole number with a fraction. They go together. They're kind of a pair. And we find that out by actually dividing. So 4 goes into 6 one time. And then we subtract 4 out the bottom. 6 minus 4 is 2. Okay, I'm done. But then how do I make this look like a mixed number over here? Who's my whole number and what do I do with the other numbers? 1 is my whole number. It goes in one time. I have 2 left over. That's my numerator. And my denominator stays the same. I keep that 4. There's my mixed number, 1 2/4. But I have to check my fraction. Am I done? I see 2 even numbers here, which means that there's something that can go into them to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to put another equals here. Remember, when you're simplifying mixed numbers, you have to keep your whole number. It doesn't just disappear. So I'm going to scooch the 1 over. Into all even numbers, I know 2 goes in. So 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 4 2 times. So each friend will get 1.5 sheets of poster board. Okay, we can also show this by drawing a picture, and they're going to ask you to do that on the homework, so I want to give you a little bit of practice with that. Go ahead and draw yourself 6 sheets of poster board. Okay, there are my 6 sheets of poster board. That's this number right here. I'm dividing that by the number of friends who are sharing, which would be 4. So how would I divide this into fourths? That would mean I'd have to divide each sheet into 4 pieces, or into 1/4 pieces, like this. Okay. And if I want to know how much one friend gets, how much each friend gets, I'm just going to color in one box here because we're just looking at one person right now. We're not looking at all 4 friends at the same time. Okay, there's the chunks of poster board that each friend will get. They'll get kind of one little corner of each sheet. If I add these all up, I know I have 4 friends that are splitting up these sheets of poster board. And then each person will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So that looks the same as what we did up here. And it also makes sense if we look at it just going directly to this number here. How many fourths in this case? How many fourths would make one whole? 4 fourths, right? Any number that's the same on top and bottom equals 1. Do I have 4 fourths in here? Do I have 4 to make a whole? Absolutely. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this, I can just automatically put 1 whole because I've got 4 here. I don't have enough for 2 wholes. I would need 8 to do that. So I've got 4, and then I've got 2 more. And remember, we keep our denominator. And that looks the same as our second step. So instead of doing it this way, you can also just look at your picture that you draw. But again, if you do that, make sure you check this fraction here. You can't just leave it like that. You have to make sure that you simplify. And when you simplify, your whole number goes with you. You can't just leave it over here. And then the same number goes in. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 4 2 times. So I end up with 1.5 again. So a couple different ways to do the same thing. You can do it this way, or you can draw a picture, whichever is easier for you. Okay? Keep these notes out so you can use them in your work. We're going to jump into our book questions here. Go ahead and skip those first couple of pages because we just did practice with that on our notes page. And this is going to be really similar to what I did in the last video where I just did kind of one of each of them, and then you would do the rest of them at the end of the video. So, excuse me, I'm going to do number 1 with you. 6 friends share 4 small pizzas equally. Okay, and they did the equation for you already, but it looks like they want you to draw lines on the model to complete the number sentence. So that would mean that I'd have to do kind of what I did over here to cut these up. I have 4 pizzas, 1, 2, 3, 4, and how many friends are sharing them? 6. So that means I would have to cut these into 6s. I'm going to go ahead and do that. To cut them into 6s easily, I draw an upside down Y and then an upside right Y, capital. And there's 6. Upside down with capital Y, right side up, capital Y. Go ahead and finish cutting up your pizzas here. There we go. They're not beautiful, but it does the job. Okay, if I was to look at one person here, remember we want how much each person has, then I would have how many parts out of one whole. And if I look at this part too, then the equation, it's just like what we did here and in our example. So our first number becomes our numerator. Our second number becomes our denominator. And then all I have to do is check for simplest form. Is there anything that goes into 4 and 6 evenly? They're both even, so I know that at least one number goes in. That number would be 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So each friend's share is 2/3 of a pizza. Okay, same thing on number 2 where they want you to cut up those boxes to match the words. And then number 3 just says complete the number sentence to solve, so they don't give you a picture this time. You can draw one if you want to, but 12 is kind of a big number to have drawn out. So let's just do what we did over here when we have a word problem. Let's do a little cups on number 3. 12, that's a number, written as a word, so I told you to pay attention for that. 12 is a number. 3 is a number. I see that word each again. And I also see that word share. Okay, U is for underline. Go ahead and underline your question. What fraction of a melon does each friend get? P is for plan. What word tells you? Oh, I see that. I see that word that tells us. That word equally, what does that tell us to do? It tells us to divide. So here's our little division sign. We're dividing, which they actually already put down for us. Okay. And now we have to look at this. Let's see. We have to know who is getting divided. Are we dividing the 12 friends, or are we dividing the 3 melons? Well, here they tell us they're sharing the 3 melons. So that means that would become my numerator, which means my other number of 12 would become the denominator. Now I have to check if anything goes in for simplest form. It might not look like it right offhand, but there is something that goes in. See if you can figure it out. Pause the video and find the number that goes into 3 and 12 and simplify for me. The number that I know goes in is 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So each friend's share is 1/4 of a melon. Kind of getting the hang of it. It's not too bad. I think you guys will be just fine doing this on your own. Okay, let me look ahead here. Let's look at number 10. That one's kind of a tricky one. Find number 10. I will tell you number 10. This is your hint. Number 10 is a 2-step process. And if we read it, you can hear why it's 2 steps. 9 friends order 4 large pizzas. 4 of the friends share 2 pizzas equally, and the other 5 friends share 2 pizzas equally. In which group does each member get a greater amount of pizza? And explain your reasoning. Tell me how you got your answer. Okay, so basically what you're going to have to do here is compare these 2 groups, the group of 4 friends and the group of 5 friends. Use this space out here to do this sort of a thing. Draw your groups out, find your division sentences, whichever way you prefer. You'll get the same answer whether you do this way or this way. But compare those 2 groups and then tell me which group gets more pizza, like which person gets more pizza from which group, and then tell me how you got your answer. Okay. The other questions that I want you to do are on the handout. Make sure that you take a peek at that. And as always, if you have questions, let me know as soon as possible, and I'll try and get back to you soon. If lots of people have the same question, I'll make and post a new video, so stay tuned for that. Good luck, you guys. I'll see you later.